Hello, Philippa. It's so good to see you.
It's wonderful. And at the end of series three, can we ever believe? We say that every time, don't we? But it really is amazing when we're counting up 18th episode today.
I know this is amazing. Series three and the end of series three. And what a wonderful series that we've had. It's been so fascinating to really delve into the inner workings of leadership and to share our experiences, to look at some of the thought processes that are out there at the moment. And to discuss some of the things that we're seeing that's coming up in coaching as we work with many leaders that are out in industry at the moment. Now, Philippa, as per usual, you seem to have brought somebody with you today. Please tell me more.
I have so many friends, I just need to share them with everybody else. So, over the series, we've been talking about a number of things, and Janine Albrecht is someone who I think encapsulates the person who's amazing people leader, um, knows that she's good enough for everything. She follows her values in her through her leadership, and I've always admired her as a leader. So, no surprise, obviously, that we worked together. She was my boss. She's an amazing boss. And I'm really, really pleased that she's sparing some time today to come and talk to us about her leadership journey. And so, welcome, Janine.
Yes, very nice to be here, especially with such an intro.
Yeah, yeah. So, nothing to live up to now, Janine. You'll be fine. So, maybe just some questions to start you off to share with the listeners. So, your definition of leadership, how would you define it yourself? And maybe a bit about your story of where did you start in your leadership journey and where would you say you are now? Is it in the same place or a different place?
How would I define it? I think it should be a bit of a natural ability to inspire other people to really work with you and to be the best they can be and deliver the best that they can deliver. But at the same time, I think it is a real onus on the leader side to discover how far everyone can go, the wonderful strengths of every single individual, and how can you actually help carve opportunities and open doors that otherwise would not be easy to open. Where did I start? I had my first one-man band, so I had my first direct report. Actually, I was in the UK and he was in Germany. Amazing guy, and my first entry into a leadership position and actually trying to build myself as a leader was a bit of a shock because we were so different in so many ways, skills, expertise, the way that what we liked, what we didn't like. Um, but actually, that taught me a lot because it was about discovering who he was and how different from me, and how together we could then deliver really great things and complement each other. Um, and then he would help me grow, but I would help him grow as well. And then I moved on to other positions where I had slightly bigger teams, 17 people growing to 100, which is where we were together,
Yeah.
Philippa. And that was a really exciting story because it was a story of growth and bringing skills and bringing people and breaking new ground together. I then had a totally different experience again, in which I was plucked out of my comfort zone. I knew everyone and everything in the business I had been working on for so long. And then I was given an opportunity to work in a slightly different business in the company with a completely different team. I
Mm.
knew nobody and they didn't know who I was. And so I had to almost ask myself, what do I stand for? What are my values? How am I going to lead? How am I going to build these relationships with this entire new team, probably twice the size as before and totally unknown, also in a business that I didn't know well. So it was out of my comfort zone from a professional perspective, even though I had lots of transferable skills, but also from my leadership perspective. And it was almost like a control alt delete moment. It worked well, and I'm back into my previous business with yet another team. And I love people. I so enjoy working with people and making sure that I really get to learn from them and to discover who they are and to then work great things together.
That's amazing, Janine. And I love the way that you've described. I mean, it feels like you've been true to yourself right the way through, but that switch almost of the move into a different business area where you've maybe relied on the knowledge and your natural self. And then when you change and you go, I can't rely on the knowledge, you're really stretching the skills side of things. So being much more conscious about the leader that you want to be and how you maneuver through that, not having the as much knowledge, let's say. Is that sort of the description about, yeah.
I think that one of the things that I have tried to be is true to myself all along. So if I may be wrong, but I feel that I'm quite an authentic person and I'm quite an open and honest person. And I am the same whether I'm with my team, with my peers, with my bosses, with their bosses, with their bosses. I will just open my mind and say what I have there and share it, good, bad, and ugly.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that this is where I had to kind of lean back onto those very specifics and just keep true to myself and then see how can I start again.
That's
I think that's
amazing,
just
yeah.
fantastic, isn't it, Philippa? We've touched on quite a lot of this in the series. You would have thought you would have thought that we'd teed you up here, Janine. And it's so true. The bit that really resonated with me, where you talked about, first of all, leading just one person, where your personalities, by the sounds of it, didn't really align at first. So you really had to probably dig deep to find out who this person was so that you could work to your joint strengths. And that so often can get overlooked in business because it's some leaders don't really lead, they manage and they manage through ego. And I really get a sense that that's not you, that's completely to one side. You're there for the team. Obviously, there'll be things that you have to achieve, but you're there for the people. And your phrase of helping people that be the best versions of themselves really resonated with me. I think that's absolutely fantastic. I'm really interested to know, so where do you sort of draw those boundaries? Because by the sounds of it, you lead from the heart, I think you said. But where do you draw those boundaries to make sure that you stay safe, the team stays safe, but also that you don't run out of energy?
Well, I actually get my energy from people. So the more I interact with people and the more I work with people, the more energy I have. It feels like an endless supply of it. And in fact, it is when I am alone that I feel really low of energy because maybe I'm recharging. I don't know. Um, um, I like to keep it going. It just gives me the momentum. I like to keep understanding who people are beyond the facade. And I think that some people are easier to get to than others. Like I'm very transparent, other people are the same. But of course, in every team, there are people who are more guarded for whatever reason they are, personality, culture, background, experience. And so it is almost as a personal challenge to actually start in a very respectful way, getting there and finding out how best to establish a rapport and really lead and support them. I do agree, Teresa, what you said. I think the role of leaders is not to shine. The role of leaders is to actually join the dots and maximize the strengths of everybody and then help work on opportunities so that they shine. Because it's only what the team achieves that the leader then really can claim any result from.
Yeah. You talked quite a bit about that, looking at other strengths, and how you bring out the best of those. It sounds like, I mean, it's such a coaching style, I would say, about really trying to elevate people to maximize their potential. If you think about yourself as well and the journey that you've been on, then are there anything from your sort of inner belief or strengths that have elevated you when you go, I need that extra boost from a leadership perspective, or fears that may have limited you in a particular area that you've then had to work out how to overcome?
Oof, that's an interesting question. I think maybe an early fear that actually I decided to turn into a strength. because I am, as you can hear, not British by birth or by parentage. Actually, I was born in Colombia, and I'm half Swiss, half Colombian. So my husband is British. I've been here for 30 years, but my personality is more Latin than British. And I say that with all love for British culture, because my husband and my children obviously are very British. Um, but I have decided to use that as my strength, as my differentiation. So what could otherwise have held me back because I am different and because I probably talk too openly and maybe too much, actually I've decided that it is what sets me apart. And I have been blessed that I have also received along that journey the support from key kind of sponsors who have appreciated honesty and who have appreciated the fact that they can really get to the point and I will not embellish a story. And so that they have been acting as my sponsors, if you like, my informal sponsors, and have helped me open doors as well. But that has also helped me remain very true and very authentic to myself, which I think is one of the key things. Now, sometimes I do think, oh my God, maybe I expressed myself too straightforward. Maybe I was just too honest. And I can sometimes see the face of surprise around those, especially when I am coming into a new team and I'm replacing a leader of very different style. And then I can see the shock in people's eyes until they actually get totally comfortable that, okay, this is good. This is a different way of working, but this is still good.
And you said you had sort of advocates who maybe gave you that positive feedback of embrace your Colombianism and the Latin in you. Is there anything else that helped you sort of with embracing it? Because it sounds like it was a change in mindset almost, not a change, as you said, all the way through of being true to yourself. So was it just the advocates, or were there other peers or maybe team members that also helped you
I
with embracing that?
I think that along my way, I mean, we work together, Phil, and just the constant feedback loop. So when you get your own team saying, I love the culture we're building, or I love the way that you're leading this team, please keep it up. It just helps me also think, okay, this is working. We are going in the right direction. In the same way that when people say, oh, maybe you should watch this or that, then that also helps me equally not go in that direction. So those open relationships that I have been able to build with not only sponsors but my own team in different situations have helped me grow hugely as a person, as a leader, and actually for the organization.
That sounds amazing. I think the feedback from all angles, we've talked quite a bit, haven't we, Theresa, in previous podcasts around the sort of 360 feedback and how valuable it is to get the feedback from different directions that makes you aware, but also confident to take the path that suits you from all the different feedback as well. So it sort of feels like you've had that just naturally going on. Maybe also an indication of your openness is people feel that they can be very open back with you as well. So it's really nice to see that circle close. Maybe just thinking about practical tips because we do have listeners who are first time leaders, about to be first time leaders, some who are experienced as well, that maybe could also pick up a trick or two. Are there any real practical tips that you would care to share about how it's things that have helped you, or maybe that you've learned along the way that you'd be able to talk about?
I would say be true to yourself and your values, and know what you stand for, and don't compromise on that is one of the big tips. The other thing is that it doesn't matter the work that we do. At the end of the day, we are one of many people in an organization, for example. And the only thing that truly, truly matters is what you do in terms of impact, positive impact with people along the way. And so if you had to rank, let's say, business delivery outcomes with people delivery outcomes, I think people have a much a longer term and more positive effect. So devote time. I never devote enough time, and I should always devote even more time to really do this. And I think that that is a tip. When you are early, make sure that it is embedded in your way of working and in your leadership. If you are later in your career and you have already had lots of experience as a leader, just sense check how much time you are spending building others around you up, and that means helping them with strengths and also with opportunities.
I think
That's
that is
lovely.
just fantastic, the way that you've articulated that, Janine. Thank you. And one of the things that I remember being told many years ago, quite at the early of my career actually, is that one of the biggest forms of compliment to a leader is to have somebody want to take your job. And because it means you've done what you needed to do for them to step into your shoes, and away you go. And that's sort of what you're saying there about that positive impact on people. And we all have 24 hours in the day, and where we choose to spend those 24 hours can often be a key indicator of how we lead. And by putting people centric, that is just fabulous. So thank you so much. I could talk and listen to you all day, but unfortunately, we're coming to the end of our time. Philippa, listening to everything that Janine has said, what do you think is our key message to come out of our last episode of the third series?
Well, to follow Janine on the transparency bit, Theresa and I had talked before we started this podcast and said, what do we think the message should be today? And I've written it down. And Janine, we didn't say to you what the message was today, but literally you've echoed it all the way through the conversation. So we said, everyone leads differently. Everyone has their own style, and the most important thing about leadership is actually to be true to yourself. And you said it so many times throughout the whole podcast, so it was amazing that we're on the same wavelength, which is great. I know you've been inspirational as a leader, certainly when I was working with you. Fantastic role modelling that hopefully I emulated when I worked with others as well. But you've really wrapped up, I think, all of the things that we've talked about during this series, so around the values, around the boundaries, around the I'll take my am I good enough and make it into a strength that I'm going to hold as a badge of honour. So it's been absolutely amazing to talk to you. Really appreciate the time, Janine. And I think you've wrapped up the series really well with embodying all of those things we've talked about in the way that you've delivered leadership. So a big thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Oh, thank you so much. Right, Philippa, that's it. What are we going to do now? We're going to have to
Oh, we're
start
going to have a
thinking
break.
about. We need to start thinking about series four, and I can't wait for that to unfold. But in the meantime, thank you so much for our conversations throughout this series. I hope we've really had an impact on people's leadership styles, thought processes, and maybe just put a few questions in everybody's minds about how they show up and what they're achieving. So thank you, Philippa. I'm going to miss you.
Miss you too.
All right. Cheerio. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.